First, every voice matters. Secondly, it's also about enhancing decision making. Thirdly, language accessibility. And finally, it's also about customer-centric approach.
Hi, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jeroen van Mulder. I'm Sales and Marketing Director for Televic Conference. First, some practical things about the seminar. So it will last about 30 minutes. Also, stay alert as you can win a gift card. There will be some polls, so please be alert. And then thirdly, you can also find the recordings of this webinar later on. It's available on our website under support. So what are the topics for today? Well, first of all, I will do a small introduction on Televic and where we're coming from as a company. And after that, my colleagues will take over and they will focus on the product range. Where or how do we perfectly fit for your needs within our company? And then as last point, there is also something about the Conference Rental Alliance, our rental network, which can also be of service for your institutional requirements. So that brings me to this picture, and it's a picture from a long time ago, because with Televic we have a very long history in audiovisual solutions. Our company was founded in 1946, first of all as a manufacturer of loudspeaker systems, amplifiers, mixing panels, etc. But in the 60s, suddenly there was a big demand in Brussels because you had the foundation of the European institutions at that time. And so a lot of people from all over Europe were gathering in Brussels to have their meetings. And for Televic, this was an interesting opportunity. So we started to develop and manufacture solutions specifically for the institutional market. And in there, that's what you see here in the picture. It's a picture from the 60s with the presidents and prime ministers of the countries that were part of the EU at that time that are gathering. And why am I showing this picture? Because in that table you will also see some devices, the channel selectors for language selection, for example, built into the table, the microphone on the table, and interpreters with interpreter desks and in the back on this picture. So all Televic equipment. And this is the start, I would say, of a very long period that we are working with the institutions. So we evolved, we equipped big rooms like the Hemicycle, plenary room in European Parliament, but also in Strasbourg. We evolved into other international institutions like headquarters of NATO, etc. This today gives us a global presence in this institutional world and with a lot of well-known references, as you can see here. Organizations that are related to United Nations like World Health Organization, the World Intellectual Property Organization, but also other organizations as you can see on the slide. We're a truly global company. We work from 8 hubs worldwide, about 10,000 bright minds that are being part of our organization. And a lot of partners worldwide that sell our solutions and can provide you with all the service that is required. Now, when we talk about Televic, for us, it's all about creating better understanding. And what does that mean? Well, first of all, from a technical perspective, we want that every voice can be heard. So every voice matters. That means that whenever you're in a room, you want to be heard clearly and you want to be understood clearly. This is what we do with audio quality from our delegate units. Second element is if you're coming together with a big group of people, it's about enhancing decision making. Because after all, at the end of the meeting, you want to come to a conclusion. And that's where we offer voting solutions to facilitate this. The last element is about language accessibility. In here, we can make or understand people in different languages so that we all have the common ground on the topics that are being discussed. And last but not least, creating better understanding for us as a company is also that we understand our customer, that we understand your needs, what you need to be more efficient in your daily meetings. So why should institutions or why should you choose for Televic? I think for me there are three main reasons. First of all, the expertise. We are in this institutional world for over 6 decades. So we have a huge experience on this particular market. We have global references with the biggest and most prestigious organizations in the world. We focus on conference only. This is the thing that we do. We breed conference. And then last but not least, we know how important audio quality is, and that's always first on our list. Secondly, we have a broad product portfolio. So it's not just about one delegate unit. No, it's about a solution that is basically fitted for every type of room you have, from a very large plenary room to, I would say, a medium to smaller meeting room. And we'll dive into that later in the product portfolio presentation. We're also hybrid ready, because in today's world, every single meeting is nearly a hybrid meeting. So our solutions allow for hybrid meetings. And then last but not least, in the institutional world, working with interpreters, it is also extremely important to be ISO compliant. We're also a customer-centric organization. We want to listen to our customers. We want to provide them with the right support in order that they can concentrate on their daily meetings. And we want to be in the heart of the ecosystem so that we can facilitate your meetings in the best possible way. Okay, first poll. Question 1. What are for you the most important items to choose for a specific conference supplier? And I'm not going to read them. You will see them. Just make your choice. Okay, everybody made a choice. Thank you very much for that. So then now we'll dive into our complete portfolio. So I give the floor to Karel.
Thank you, Jurgen. Hi and welcome everyone. My name is Karel van Heulen. I'm Senior Technical Sales Consultant for Televic, and I will introduce you to our product portfolio. So for those of you who are not familiar with Televic, the fundament of a conference system is the audio distribution. So here on the bottom you see our discussion system Discerno in tabletop version and flush mount. If you would like to have a wireless system, we can also provide you a discussion-only wireless system, which is called Confidia Go G4. If you would like to add enhanced meeting features like electronic voting, agenda management, or RFID badge authentication, then we talk about a conference system. There we provide the Confidia Flex Wired, which is our most popular product. But if you would like to have a more customized unit or a flush mount unit, we can also provide the Confidia F. And here also, if it needs to be wireless, we also have you covered with our Confidia Flex G4. Now, in a lot of institutions, we do have interpretation, and therefore we use interpreter desks. So there we do have two versions, one with audio and without video, and the other one with, of course, audio and video on the back, an HDMI output that can provide the video streams that are available on our network. For the language distribution, We do have two systems, the Lingua IR, which is infrared, and the Unite, which use the DECT technology. On top, you see the multimedia systems. Multimedia means that we do have an all-in-one unit, microphone, display, camera, loudspeaker, that can work together and where you can have multiple video streams at your fingertips, but also with an individual camera, so that if you're talking, that you are on the video stream. Of course, we also provide external cameras for camera control and individual electronic nameplates to show the name of the delegate that is present at its desk. All those units, all those delegate units are working together within central units, which is in fact the brain of the system and to which they are connected. So for Discerno, we do have a separate central unit, which is the Discerno AE. And for wireless, we do have an access point, the Confidia WAP G4. And then for all the wired systems, we do have two different versions of central units. The Plexus AER for audio-only systems, so systems where there is no need for a Unica system or a multimedia system. And then if you need those multimedia systems, you need to use the multimedia Plexus MME. All Plexus-enabled central units do have a Dante interface, and the Plexus or the Discerno AE does have an AS67 interface. Now, what are the advantages of our Plexus architecture? First of all, we do allow mixed wired wireless setups. This is a very powerful feature of ours. So if you do have a wired setup, but you would like to add additionally some units in case, for example, there needs to be an extension to your meeting, that's very easy. Just add an access point with wireless units. Secondly, everything is running over the same Cat5e standardized cables. So no dedicated cable, you can just use a Cat5e cable. Then we do have audio, video, all running over that same cable. So you don't need to have or to pull different networks. You can just use the same network, which is capable of having 6 full HD video streams. There is a possibility for redundancy. That means you can make loops in your network, making sure that if a unit would break or if a cable would break, then all the other units will still work. I talked about Dante. We do have 64 inputs and 64 outputs, all from the same central unit, so you don't need additional equipment or additional interfaces to allow Dante in our conference system. And something that is very much liked by our integrators is the API. We do have a very extensive API, so allowing you to do most of our meeting features over API. Now let's talk a little bit more about the Lingua interpreter desk. So institutions mostly use an interpreter desk. Ours is of course ISO compliant. I'll talk about that in a while. It has an ergonomic design that has been made by and for interpreters. They were very much involved in the design process. As I said, we do have a possibility to have 64 languages. And there is also an interpreter desk with an HDMI output, so you can have the camera output right from your interpreter desk without adding additional networks or cables. Televic is a member of the ISO committee and the subcommittees there. It's very important because we are focused also on the translation, interpretation, and related technology and the equipment for interpreting services. Televic already participated since 2014 in these committees as experts. We are very much involved. In fact, the purpose of these committees is making sure that we have international standards for interpreting equipment to ensure high quality interpretation services and a positive environment for both interpreters and, of course, meeting participants. we are looking at the interpreter well-being. As I said, we need to establish ergonomic requirements for interpreting goods and equipment to improve comfort and reduce fatigue. And also, of course, we need to specify the equipment and the features that are needed therefore. Of course, this is an ongoing effort because technology is changing and also the demands are changing. So we are continuously updating those standards. And of course, we also need to comply to the standards that are there. So we also make sure that independent organizations can test our equipment. For example, here for hearing protection, we make sure that everything is compliant. Okay, so that brings us to the second poll or second question. And here is a question: what is the average number of languages that you use in your organization? Either you don't use any interpretation, up to six languages, up to 12 languages, or more than 12 languages. I'll give you some moments to bring out or cast your vote. Okay. And so I would like to introduce you to our colleague Peter-Jan van Damme, who will talk about different types of rooms.
Yes, hello also from my side. My name is Peter-Jan, and we'll guide you to some advantages of Televic conference equipment for all types of rooms. So let's start with the small rooms. Have an estimated size between 10 or 30 people, mostly for informal meetings. Think about training rooms, multi-purpose rooms, huddle rooms, bringing in like our entry-level products, Discerno. This is not an actual institution. We use the picture from somewhere else, but I know that at this very moment, European Economic and Social Committee ordered these kind of equipment for this type of meeting rooms to answer their needs in combination with a hybrid environment.
Yeah. Another example is the World Intellectual Property Organization. So here also you can see that they use these kind of meeting rooms for informal meetings, where there is typically also a camera so that you can use this room for hybrid meetings. So you can connect it to Teams, Zoom, or any conference system you like. One advantage of using a conference system over a ceiling microphone, for example, is the fact that you can position the camera very close, very accurate to the delegate that is speaking. So also, these kind of rooms can be used without actually pushing the microphone. So if you have a very informal meeting where there is no need of having a kind of moderation, then also our equipment allows to use the hands-free mode. And maybe I can explain you more in detail what this means. In fact, the microphones always stay on, so you don't have to push the button, that's very clear. But also the loudspeaker is not using your audio, so there is no feedback. It's what we call mix minus. And the gain of all the open microphones is always constant, so we use the gain sharing. But more importantly, we also use speech detection. Although all microphones are open, our system will sense who is actually speaking and will trigger an API for the camera system so that the camera can position to the actual speaking person. So even if there are more microphones open, it can be clear who is speaking. The button, however, can still be used, but then for the opposite, namely to push the mute. So this is set up for, let's say, informal meetings. And if there is one thing that you should remember from this webinar is that although Televic is mostly known for those big institutions, we also have the right products for those, let's say, smaller meeting rooms, as you have seen here. Another example is the European Court of Justice, where also they use the conference system, not tabletop, but flush mount, but also for integration with their WebEx system. So it's not only Teams, but of course also others like WebEx here. You can go even further, and you can also combine it with RSI platforms. So if you would have a virtual interpretation coming from an external platform, that also can be integrated in our Televic system so that the interpretation languages are provided to your delegate units.
Yeah, so let's move on to the medium-sized medium rooms, which are more common in institutions in general, mostly used then for the formal meetings, also informal, but mostly formal. Then you add up interpretation, you add up voting, and some other features. So let's move on with possibilities in flush mount, as you see here in UNESCO Paris. It can be tabletop. As OCDE example, that's also one in Paris, or it can be wireless, and this is ASMA, and by accident these are all three in Paris. So one of the items that institutions or international organizations choose for Telemint is very important is that the system runs on-premise. It is a mission-critical system for decision-making meetings, so the critical functionalities, they run on the central unit. No Windows PC is needed. You do not need a connection to the outside room or cloud. One nice feature to add is that you can add your logo on the Flex unit or a welcome message to all of the members. So mission critical, that means also that you want to avoid any dropouts. So our system can run in a redundancy mode. You can do loop cabling, reducing the downtime or avoiding any failure during the meetings. And on top of that, that makes it also easier to troubleshoot.
One specific item that I would like to highlight is, in fact, the reason why some organizations are using Unicos. For example, European Court of Justice, they have, let's say, a medium-sized room, but it's a very long table, as you can see. So for participants, it's not always easy to have a discussion at the same time and looking at the screen, which is far away. So therefore, they chose for Unicos because they do have a screen in front of them. And they can just keep on having a discussion with the people in the room while looking at their own screen. But another advantage, of course, is that the camera inside the Unicos is tracking the active speaker. So if you use it in combination with a remote conference system, then also the remote participants will see clearly who is speaking. So this is what I would like to explain to you, is that with Unicos you can really solve the line of sight issues. So both having a good sight on the display or on the presentation or on the person on the camera itself, and the other way around, the camera can track you very close, even if it is a very difficult room where the external cameras could not always track you. With the individual camera of a Unicos, this is possible. So that's also the reason why European Court of Justice is choosing for Unicos. So they use both the display to look at the presentation of the remote participants, but are using the camera to track the active speaker. Another example outside of Europe is the National Institute for Health. It's also let's say a room where they have Unicos, and it's a room that can be flexible. So another advantage of having Unicos is that you can take it away. So if you don't need to put an external camera tracking system and fine-tune every position again. So just put the let's say the unit on the table, and you're good to go for hybrid meetings. UNESCO, another example in Paris, where they use let's say Unicos for solving line of sight issues. And this brings us, in fact, to the let's say the larger rooms. And large for us means more than 200, 250 delegates in one room. So typically the hemicycles there, I think Televic also can handle this kind of rooms because we have a very scalable system. So one central unit can cater, say, a small amount of units, but as well many more units. So here is, for example, European Commission. And even in those large rooms, they are also using, let's say, the standard tabletop unit. For example, here, Flex Wired. And Flex Wired is also well, used with different licenses. So the possibilities are, you have a lot of possibilities to use with Flex. In this case, for example, the European Commission is using it as dual delegate. So the button has two LED indications. That means that the person left and right can both press the microphone button, and the camera will position to the right seat. In fact, that's the advantage of Confidia Flex. You have one standard hardware, and with licenses you can upgrade your unit. So that means that you see you have all the features you need, but not anymore. So if you don't need advanced meeting features, you don't see them. So it's the user interface is always as simple as possible. We can add, let's say, channel selection, which is a license. We can add voting and agenda control from the touchscreen. We can add authentication through badge. And of course, the unit can be configured as either chairperson or a normal delegate, or a dual delegate, as in the case of European Commission.
Yeah, so scalable systems are very important, and also working to reduce the operational cost as well as installation. For give an example, using Cat5 cable doesn't need the addition of additional very custom cables, or even in the maintenance part where our diagnostics tool will also help you to find troubles or a broken cable in a very fast way. So some other examples here where in CCG Geneva you can find a video over that same network. Karl mentioned that before, one cable for audio and video, and where you can see, if you look well, and the interpreter booth where you have a channel selector, or a video selector rather, for the interpreter to choose the image of his choice. So, and World Intellectual Property Organization is another of our references in the Geneva area. So we have another poll there, one other question for people working in these institutions and international organizations. What is the average number of remote participants in your hybrid meetings? So we know that before COVID, all meetings were mostly on-site. Today we cannot think of any meeting that has not one or more remote participants. So let's take an average there. I know that some will have exceptions where sometimes more than 1,000 people will log onto the meeting, but in the current meeting, the daily meetings, what is your experience? No hybrid meetings, which I would really doubt. Do you have up to 10 remote participants, 50 or more than 50 active remote participants? So you have a possibility now to select one of those. Take into account that we are looking more for an average to share with you. Okay, we had an overview on different room types, but we have more advantages that are not necessarily linked to the size of a room. So customization is some of our strengths where we can adapt to any kind of furniture or architectural limitations. European Court of Justice, they have some very nice equipment in brass, and also some in the seats, and because there are a lot of, it's a court, so there is a lot of public seats where we adapted the channel selectors with an integration that does not use any screws, but also you can see the hole in the middle of the channel selector. That makes that the connection is done inside the building. They have a lot of visitors, and in that case they avoid that the headphones are being stolen. It's a very architectural challenging environment, so we are delivering brass plates there with in combination with our electronics. In European Parliament, we had the opportunity to introduce our shock mount system, where so the microphone is mounted in the delegate panel with a shock mount system, which avoid that vibrations coming from the table are picked up by the microphones. This is another example of customization in WHO Geneva. It's a standard flush mount panel, but which is mounted in a very dedicated housing for them to allow the mounting per 2 persons. European Council that's in Brussels, where they've added some channel selection possibilities for visitors on the back end of the room. And then we have other possibilities that can be used in the finishing of the plates, or adding a logo on the hardware, having other possibilities with integrations for, let's say, a press box, where you can have different people from the press connecting, searching their audio in their language. On the left top, you see the shock mount again, F-box integration on the right top, or a very dedicated Unicos integration. The brass plate is there, the voting options are there. You can add a lid for voting buttons or a USB connector, and so on. And I think we have an example here also. That's European Commission in Brussels for a microphone that is built in an armrest. Finishing the customization part with some technical drawings, just to indicate that these are the preliminary drawings for the work that we are doing at this moment, preparation work for a new renovation phase at the European Parliament.
Okay, so the Food and Agriculture Organization in Rome is another example. They chose for Televic. One of the reasons was also the nameplate. So it is possible to show the actual member state that is sitting at its desk through the electronic nameplate. So that means if they insert the badge, automatically the name of the country will appear on the nameplates. We have both a dual-side nameplate, so that you can show it on both sides, or single-sided if you only want to show it on the front. IDB, Interdevelopment Bank in the US, is another example. The reason why they chose for Televic, well, there are many, but one of them was also our API. So we do have a very let's say extensive API, which allows us to integrate with an external control systems. And this was much liked by the IDB. You can see that they're also using our electronic nameplate and also a Unicos, but not the tabletop version, but the flash mount version. Also, not only integration with meeting management software, but also, for example, with Crestron. In this case, IDB also integrating with Crestron, but we also integrate with other control systems, of course. NATO, of course, their security is a major topic, and one of the reasons why they chose for Televic. We do have a secure, let's say, Plexus system, which is isolated from the external network. Another feature that we could offer to the NATO was a need for a room coupling. So they wanted to have a very flexible way of combining different rooms or having separate rooms in an automated way.
Yeah, that brings us to another advantage, and that is one of the most common ones, and that is language distribution, the interpretation. The audio quality is top of mind because you want to have the best audio quality to the interpreters, not only for them to do their work in a proper way, but also to take care of the auditive health. This is the European Commission, but we also have a good example there on the European Council in Brussels, where in this room you see that there are 2 floors of booths integrated. That makes in the total for one room of 40 interpreter booths combined in one room. So that means that also on the interpretation side, our system is quite scalable there. And this is another view from the same room, but then from the interpreter booth for our the installations. Eurojust is also another nice example where ISO compliancy is very important. Eurojust also has a mix of our systems. In this case, you can combine it in different rooms. Here you have different rooms where they, according to the needs and the size of the room, that they use different products of the Televic portfolio. Then this is an example of how Televic is used in a wireless setup. This is the Angola visit of President Biden. And then another example for wireless is World Bank, also their US reference, where there is a combination of Televic wireless microphones combined with infrared language distribution. Our Unite products are also being used as a reference in these institutions and international organizations. This picture was taken at the European Parliament, where our Unite product is used as a language selector, but a mobile one for the language distribution for people who are queuing to speak or for ushers that walk around in the room. But a tour guide solution for any visit in one of the institutions is also one of the possibilities there. Okay, so let's shortly talk about the Conference Rental Alliance. As an institution or an international organization, you have a lot of meeting rooms, you have a lot of meetings going on, but sometimes you have to go outside of the building, outside of the meeting rooms. Televic is a partner of the Conference Rental Alliance, where today we have partners over the world. It's a strong and the strongest growing rental network with, well, some of the premium partners here shown, but we are going very strong and growing very strong to have more of the premium partners, which have a focus on bringing the best possible solution based on conference products from Televic, but also the best possible services to meet the needs of and the high standards of the institutions and international organizations. Do not hesitate also to have a look at the website of the Conference Rental Alliance, where you can find information, but I think also important, where you can also independently check on who you want to work with in a certain region. The partners are listed on that website. These are some references that were already done by members of that Conference Rental Alliance, NATO Summit in Luxembourg, the Belgian presidency of the European Union, and the International Transport, for example.
Okay, so if during the webinar you thought about a new project or a specific need for a product, please get in touch with our team. You can scan this QR code to fill out the form, and then we will contact you immediately or in the next coming days. Also, please don't forget to visit us in Barcelona. If you're going to ISE, we are on booth 3N750, and if you use the codes here mentioned on this slide, you will claim your free ticket. So I hope to see you all there. So this was the end of our webinar. I would like to thank Jurgen and Peter-Jan. If you would like to see the recording of this webinar afterwards, you can go just to our website and then click on the tab here, Contact, to see to all webinar and also previous webinars. So this is mentioned here, as you can see. And don't forget to follow us on all socials to stay up to date. And I hope to see you back in our next webinar. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
First, every voice matters. Secondly, it's also about enhancing decision-making. Thirdly, language accessibility. And finally, it's also about customer-centric approach.